We're now joined by a living legend. I am talking about the original 88 Drew Pearson. You can find him on Twitter at 88 Drew Pearson. Drew was one of the first co-hosts I had in sports. I don't know if you realize that. We did the Drew Pearson show a long time ago, and I love seeing you continue to do media and thriving. Your thoughts as it related to this draft, Drew, and picking another 88 in CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, well, first of all, I keep sending you those invoices, and they keep returning to sender for that payment you owe me for giving you your big break. But anyway, I was first of all surprised that CeeDee Lamb fell to the Cowboys. And I'm thinking, man, I think the reason is because Henry Ruggs went to, Denver? No, the Raiders. And I think everybody expected Judy or CD to go ahead of Ruggs. But once he went ahead, it started changing the order a little bit in people's thinking following that draft pick. So he ended up falling to the Cowboys. And right away, what I did was pull up his highlights, okay? And I'm like, whoa, this is a bad man here. And he's got the size and the speed. And the thing that's impressive, he runs good routes, and he's in that system where they have to run routes because they throw the ball a lot. And they have to run good routes, and he gets in the man-to-man coverage a lot. But the thing is, the action really starts after he makes the catch, okay? You see, yards after the catch is the reason why he averaged over 21 yards a catch at OU. So you bring that to our offense, and, man, that's going to make a big difference, no matter who's a quarterback, Dak, Andy, or whomever.
No, you were Drew, you were somebody who, when we talk about the legacy of 88, I mean, you were the one who created it. You know, you were the one who started that legacy, and then it, of course, went to Michael Irvin and then Dez Bryant and now to CeeDee Lamb. So, I don't think that you were kind of faced with the same sort of question about the number or anything that CeeDee Lamb seemed to be, where there's this discussion, did he take 88 or not? Talk about, I guess, just the legacy of that number and how you feel about CD being the next to wear that.
Yeah, well, first of all, Bobby, nobody had it before I did. The reason it was available is because Ron Sellers had it the year before I had it. And he got traded to the Miami Dolphins for Otto Stowe. Otto Stowe had been playing behind Paul Warfield for 4 years, and he wanted to get out of there, so he forced a trade to come to Dallas, and he wore 82. And thank God he came to Dallas, because I learned how to play wide receiver in the NFL by watching Otto Stowe, okay? Mike Ditka was my receiver coach, wide receiver coach, okay? Mike Ditka knew nothing about wide receiver except my blocking assignments. He knew all that, but he didn't know how to run routes or anything. But anyway, the number was available, so after I made the team, you couldn't have the single-digit numbers. I had number 3 in college. I wanted that. 15 in high school, wanted that. Couldn't do that, so you had to go in the 80s. And so there wasn't that many numbers available. Billy Joe was the number 1 draft pick. He took 89. Golden Richard was number 2. He took 80, 83, 85. Who wants that? 87, no way. So the only thing that really sounded decent was 88, and that's why I took it. But then after I did what I did in it and I retired, I started calling myself the original 88, okay? And it just kind of caught on. And people had forgotten that somebody else previously had worn 88. So I did what I did and set a tone for the 88s. But what made it a legacy, and now Michael comes along. And, I was working for Channel 5, Scott Murray. He sends me out to DFW Airport to greet Michael as his plane comes in after he gets drafted. And, first thing Michael says, Drew, they want me to wear number 88. Is that okay? I said, well, Michael, it's not my number, first of all. Second of all, if you do wear it, don't do what I did in it. Do more than I did. And, man, he did a lot more than I did, okay? Hall of Fame career individually, 3 Super Bowl championships, and all that. So now we got something going. Now we got a legacy. If Michael doesn't do anything in the number 88, then it is no legacy. So now we got something going, and Dez comes along, and me and Michael got together with Dez. And we said, hey, Dez, this is something that we want to carry on. And you were designated and anointed to do this because of your abilities and what you bring to the table and your similarities to us at that position. So Dez took it, and, man, he took off with it and had a nice career. He ended up the all-time touchdown leader, and I don't know how many yards. He's ahead of most of us in yardage. I know he's ahead of me. So he took the number and did something with it, and now it's looked upon as a prestigious number in Cowboy number history, number lore. So now CD comes, and I didn't think, well, CD, he's a different kind of receiver. I'm thinking maybe more Bob Hayes. Bob Hayes finished his career 20 yards a catch his whole career, okay? CD, 21 yards a catch, game breakers, going deep, big plays and stuff like that. I'm thinking maybe Jerry's going to start another legacy going with the number 22. Bob Hayes, Emmitt Smith, CD Lamb. But no, he had other reasons to anoint CD with the double eights. And, from what I hear, he couldn't have gone wrong with passing it on to CD Lamb.
What do you think about this new regime, Mike McCarthy? Because I know you've been following this team as closely as I have, even more so because you're so invested in it. Are you seeing things a little differently with this new regime and Mike at the helm as it relates to some of the decisions that the Cowboys have made this offseason?
Yeah, I guess you can put some of the reasons why they had such a good draft. Now you got a different voice in a room, different guy in the room looking for different things. I understand once he got the job, he and Will McClay got real close, and they worked together. Will McClay found out what kind of players Mike McCarthy's looking for to run his offense and run his football team, and Will McClay, has done a tremendous job, went out and got those players and found those kind of players. And, so I think his voice in the meetings and the way they did things, having Jerry out on his boat out to sea somewhere where he couldn't mess with stuff. And I'm wondering, nobody said it. Was Will McClay on that boat? I don't think so. He was probably back at the headquarters feeding information, right? So Jerry couldn't get to him like he normally could get to him, pull him aside and all that kind of stuff. So Will probably had the final say, along with Mike McCarthy, in a lot of the picks that the Cowboys made throughout this draft, for sure.
Jerry's going to come for you for saying that. You know that.
I know. Just take me on the boat, Jerry. Just get me out there to sea and then do something to me.
Now, Drew, we talk about the 88 legacy. There's another legacy of yours that has been talked about for a long time, and that says, one of the great undrafted free agents, not just in Cowboys history, but in NFL history. And I want to find out if this is true, because this is something that I've heard, but I can't recall if you've ever said this yourself. Is it true? Because we talk about these guys that we talked to Rondell Carter earlier, who's an undrafted free agent out of James Madison. He said it came down to the 49ers and the Cowboys, and he picked the Cowboys. And maybe nobody thinks anything of that now, but when you had your undrafted free agent decision, is it true that it came down to the Cowboys and the Steelers, and we were this close to you being on the other side of that war in the 70s?
Well, actually, it came down between Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Dallas. And Pittsburgh was real close, or the front runner pretty much, so because they offered the most money, all right? They offered me a signing bonus of $1,500, all right? But the Cowboys, I know. But the Cowboys impressed me. It had it in my head after I met with the Steelers, because the Cowboys were there at the second day of the draft. I'm in my college apartment at Tulsa University, and they had a scout there at the Camelot Hotel calling my house saying they couldn't believe I wasn't drafted. Can you come down to the Camelot? And we want you to sign a contract and that type of thing. So I said, well, I can come down there, but you got to give me an hour, because this is like 17 rounds of the draft. And after the 12th round, I'm drinking Boone's Farm, baby. I was drowning in my sorrows, and so I had to sober up before I went down there. So anyway, they offered me a contract right there, base salary of $14,500 and a signing bonus of $150.
Wow.
And so I took that over to Steeler money, and I said to the scout, who the late Bob Griffin, I told him, I said, sir, if you pay me that signing bonus in cash, I'll sign right now. So he paid me in cash, 7 20s and a 10. And that's how I got my signing bonus with the Dallas Cowboys. But
Isn't it wild?
God, it parlayed into a lot more. I don't know if it would have been the same situation. I know I wouldn't go to Green Bay. I thought seriously about Pittsburgh, but I don't think it would have turned out as great as it did if I ended up with the Dallas Cowboys. Because Pittsburgh would have never had Lynn Swann. Therefore, when we played Pittsburgh in those games, Lynn Swann would have never made those catches. No. Anyway.
Isn't it wild when you think about some of those contracts? I mean, I love, what was your teammate that got the horse trailer, which was one of my favorite stories as part of his negotiations?
Was it Charlie Waters?
That was Charlie Waters.
Charlie Waters, yeah. Yeah, and let's see, they give us Grand Prix. I got a Grand Prix. And it was green. And I tried to sell it. Nobody wanted the green car.
So funny. When I think about my first market, I mean, they didn't pay us anything in Tyler, Texas. $16,500 a year is what I made. And our big deal was trade. So you'd get like free hair, free gym membership, and you took it. Because you're like, whatever you want to give me to sweeten what this deal is, I'd appreciate it. Before we let you go, Drew, one of the toughest things that I've watched in the last year was, I know a lot of people push for you to go in the Hall of Fame. I knew this was the year that you wanted it. You certainly had the career that warrants it. What was it like not getting that call and having cameras on you, Drew, in that moment?
Well, it was very disappointing. And, I was felt, like I said, heartbroken, let down, and that type of thing. And the only reason is because I had so much confidence that this was going to be the way I get in, okay? This was, according to Rick Gosselin and Shareen Williams and Jerry Bell, this was the way for the Hall of Fame voting committee to make up for some of the mistakes that they made along the line. And I thought I was one of the most glaring mistakes that they made, not so much because of my ego and everything like that, but simply because I was all decade. Come on. You voted for me all decade. And so then I see Harold Carmichael go in early, and I said, they must have made a call for him because he's there. He's at the studio. I mean, he's showing up like that. And I said, I ain't even got a phone call yet. So I keep looking at my phone and all that. But the thing is, this was the first time I've ever been a finalist. I've never even been in the room and to be considered. So this is the first time as a finalist, and I didn't know how finalists act. I thought if you're a finalist, you're supposed to have everybody there, just in case you do go in. And so I had all the TV stations there. I worked for just about every TV station in the market, so I knew everybody. One guy calls, can I come? The next guy, yeah, I heard so-and-so, can I come? Yeah, next thing you know, all the TV stations are there. And, this is so early in the morning, but, when the call didn't come down, the last pick went, I was really, really disappointed. And so I showed that emotion. That was real, okay? And so what I hope that comes out of that is not so much people feel sorry for Drew Pearson and all that. What I hope comes out of that is these sports writers that have this vote understand what this really means to us, okay? You break our hearts when you turn us down in such a way that you do, And I got turned down. I'm at least at home around friends and family. How about Everson Walls a couple years ago when he's sitting in the room waiting for that knock to say, yeah, you're in, and got his friends and family there with him. No one showed the camera on him the disappointment he felt, or anybody else that doesn't get in, a disappointment they feel. So this showed that emotion, and that's what I explained to Mr. Baker, David Baker, who called me shortly after this and was disappointed I didn't get in. He said I was on his list. And he doesn't have a vote, but I was on his list thinking I would be one of the guys to go in. So, what I told him is I hope the voting committee sees how we feel about this, how important this is to us. So don't play no bias games with us. Don't play no political games with us, Let this be a subjective vote based on what we brought to the league, our teams in the NFL during the time we played. And don't compare me with all these 1,000-yard catch receivers, What did Michael Thomas had? 144 catches in one season? Oh, my God. It took me 5 years to get that. But anyway, so hopefully it'll come around. I talked to Rick Gosselin, Charlene, Jared Bell, Gary Myers. They all think that it'll happen. And, look how God works, guys. Look at this situation now. We don't even know if there's going to be a ceremony. this year at this point. Baseball canceled their Hall of Fame ceremony. We don't know what the season's going to be like or anything. So I've been texting Cliff and finding out if he's heard anything. He hasn't heard anything about anything solid about what they're going to do moving forward. So God put me in a position where sometimes the storms that come in your life don't come to disrupt your life. Sometimes they clear a path. And this path was going to be a little different for me to get to the NFL Hall of Fame. So that's how I look at it.
Well, I know this, when you've got the sour, it makes it so much sweeter when the good thing happens for you. And I know it's going to come for you. Look at Charles Haley, how long he had to wait. Terrell Owens, I remember how devastated he was. And then, of course, he just didn't even show up because he was so frustrated with it. I hope that's not the case for you. I hope they don't put you through this sort of angst again. But we really, really appreciate you coming on the show. Always a pleasure, Drew.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. And great stuff. You guys are mid-season form. Thank you.